Fulfillment is here now. Heaven on earth is here now. And Yeshua teaches us this many times throughout the canonical scripture. Stay with me if you're feeling separated from the life that you desire. My name is Lucian. I thank you for co-creating this moment here with me, this transmission of Divine Within, where we remember that reality is built from within, that you are the first source, the first cause, your identity, your being as an individualized expression of the all that is. All you're ever seeing is more of you. And this is a part 2 of a previous message that I released, and that it was just a few days ago. It starts with Matthew 21. Look at that first. This is a pickup from that, but it can stand alone. So we're in Matthew 21, verse 18 to 22, early in the morning, because this was a big message, so I want to break it down into parts. Early in the morning, Jesus was on his way back to the city, and he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it and found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you never bear fruit again." And immediately the tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they were amazed. "How did the fig tree wither so quickly?" they asked. And Jesus replied, "Truly, I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to this fig tree, but you can say to the mountain, 'Throw yourself into the sea,' and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you have asked for in prayer." So what are we talking about today? Draw your attention to kill false appearances. So how does that relate to the scripture? The withering. It withered. Withdraw your attention to kill false appearances. If you don't like what you see in your reality, you have got to withdraw your attention from it. I'll say that again. If you don't like what you see in your reality, you've got to withdraw your attention from it. But isn't that paradoxical? Because the problem, the appearance of a problem, which there is no problem, it's really our perception of the problem that is the problem. But it's the problem, the perception of the problem, doesn't it in some way lure us into deeper into the problem? We start to mistake the problem, the circumstance, as the source, and the more that we try to fix the source, the further away our desired outcome of said source feels from us. The more we chase a specific outcome, the further away we feel from that outcome. So we try to fix the problem and end up creating more of the problem, because now we're in vibrational resonance with said problem. Jesus, Yeshua, said, "Fuck that. Nope. No." And again, go back to Matthew 21, because I get into the symbolism of the fig tree itself. But the fig generally, at least the figs we can eat, is a female plant, and it's a female plant that sprouts. So rather than kind of like growing from the inside out, like, like a lot of, I'm not an agriculturist, okay, but a lot of fruits, they grow like they're small little guys, and then they get to be bigger little guys. And then the little guys are plucked, however that may happen, on a vine or a tree or whatever, and then we eat them. Well, the fig is very specific in the fact, this whole analogy here with the fig tree, fig is very specific because it grows from the inside out, from these little shoots. They're pollinated by these very specific fig gnats in the male plants, and they pollinate and spread it to the female plants, and the female plants are what we eat. But it sprouts from the inside out, which is metaphorical allegory for what? That the internal substance of your psyche, of your world, is what you will observe as external reality. So the fig tree, but I already did a breakdown on the fig plant itself. But so it goes to a fig tree, right? Something that should be bearing a very specific type of fruit that essentially manifests itself from the inside out in order to generate an external reality of a fruit that can be eaten. And he gets to, because the tree's got leaves, right? So it appears, oh, there must be fruit on that tree. And isn't that what we do? We mistake the appearance for something for the reality of what it is. He saw that the appearance was not the reality and banished it from his attention. And in banishing it from his attention, this tree withered. So he withdrew his attention to kill false appearances. If you want to stop dealing with things, stop dealing with problems, whatever they may be, if they're financial, most of our problems are financial and relational, right? In some way or another. I mean, they're money related or people related. There's only, I mean, it's really, everything is like a subdomain of those things, basically security related or social related, because that's, we eat and sleep and need roofs, and I mean, the human mammal is an animal, so there's very few, everything that any problem we have is going to fall under a social category or a safety category. Stop participating, like if I mean, there's so many examples that I have of this, of very early on, just being just an ass in my 20s, just being an ass in my 20s. I had these relationships with people that I felt like they had a problem with me, and because that was my internal substance, that's what I observed in my external world, right? And when I decided that I just didn't want to participate in that reality anymore, I knew nothing about manifestation. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to treat that person as peachy keen. It's not talking about like becoming their best friend or spending outside time with them, but I'm going to stop participating in a reality where they actually have a problem with me. I'm just no longer consenting to that. They can have a problem or not have a problem. I'm going to greet them. I'm going to be cordial. This is going to be, it's going to be kosher. It's going to be water on the bridge, because I'm not like dealing with an environment where I like have this tension with this person, because I don't want that, because it's uncomfortable and it sucks. It is not conducive to what I was trying to accomplish in said environment. So I just withdrew my attention from the essence of that problem, one that was internally generated in the first place. Again, you are the cause of all of this, and it was fine. And it was fine. It's fine. These are not people that I intended to, again, spend exorbitant amounts of time with. But I stopped participating in a reality where said conflict exists. I didn't, because what we do, right, is we go to the tree and we curse the tree. We're like, no, a fig tree that I was hungry and it was supposed to have fruit, and it didn't have fruit. Oh God, oh me, oh my, oh why? Why is it me? Why is it every time I go to a tree? You know what? That's why I can't expect anything out of anybody or anyone, because anytime I need something, and we go on and on and on, again, we're feeding this problem. Whereas Yeshua banished it. Like there's a symbol in this. Like he banished the tree from his attention, and so again, Yeshua then representing the power of your I am. Yeshua is the representation of the God made man and the man made God, right? That is in, the Father is greater than I, the Father being the field, yet I and the Father are one. So living as the divine incarnate, as I like to refer to it. And it is my assumption that we are all the divine incarnate. We are all individualized, localized expressions of God. Yeshua, the stories, the canonical gospels, the non-canonical gospels, the Gnostic gospels, the whole myth of Yeshua brings us to an attention point of a quote unquote man who knew that he was in a one-to-one relationship with the divine, and that he was not separate from anything that he saw. That's you. That's also you. He did not come to teach us to worship him. He showed us, he's like, if you can see the divine in me, think about sight, right? Whatever you observe, you're in a one-to-one relationship with. So if you see the divine in me in a human skin suit, then you should see the divine in you in a human skin suit, because we can only see what we actually are. That was the whole message. So when Yeshua, which is a representation of your divinely incarnate I am self, in a one-to-one relationship with the creative power of all that is seen per the perspective of his world, when he withdrew his attention from that, he killed it. So the answer is that if you want to stop dealing with problems in your life, stop feeding your attention to it. Stop consenting to the reality that those problems exist. Stop feeding it your attention, because the more you feed it your attention, the more you're charging it with energy. Another example of this, very early on, is I was working a day job, and there's a particularly, so the day job was a day job, but then there was like this really particularly unpleasant on-call work, and I hated it. It's not made for me and my character type. I'm really kind of a low and slow type of person, you know, and this was a very like kind of high demand type of deal. And after a few years of it, this is in my early 20s, I just decided that this is not part of my reality anymore. I'm just not doing it. I just decided that this is gone, that this is done. I'm not participating in it anymore. So even when my name was on the schedule, so right, that's like a circumstance, right? Like, I'm saying I'm not participating in this type of work anymore. It's just not for me. It doesn't match who I am. It doesn't match my concept of myself. It doesn't match the type of work that I consent to doing. I never consented to do this, so I'm just not going to do it. When I decided to remove my attention, I just decided that it just wasn't happening for me anymore. The on-call schedule would come out. I would find ways. I would finagle my way out of said on-calls. I would pay other people to take the on-calls. And it wasn't even like, oh God, this is coming up because I have this part of my job. Now I've got to find. I just decided it was like I didn't care who took it. I knew every time I was on the schedule, it would just work out. That I somehow wouldn't be doing it. I just stopped, consented to it again. I knew nothing about this. Is several years ago. Knew nothing about manifestation. Eventually, I ended up being shifted to a higher position to where that was no longer a part of my role expectations. Which, I mean, prior to that point in time, I hadn't done an on call in like a year and a half anyway. So like the promotion, then, so we think, oh, the circumstance, oh God, I can't wait for the circumstance to get better. It's like, no, I decided the circumstance was already good, was already better, was already what I wanted prior to even knowing anything about this. And yeah, then eventually I was structurally removed from said circumstance, but that tree was already withered. It wasn't like a surprise or a shock to me that like, oh God, it's gone. Like it already was. You decide to stop participating in the creation of your own hardships. If you feel disempowered, taken advantage of, ghosted, broke, you decide to stop participating in reality where that's true. You decide to live like a king or queen or they, them, powerful leader now. You decide to live the love now. You decide to live the abundance now. You decide to live you decide to, if you feel as though there are other people, these authority figures in your life that are always trying to put you down or make you feel a certain way, you decide to revoke that power from them and live that power within. They can bark, they can have their orders. I mean, the mind, I really do believe it is really kind of its own prison of our own creation, of our own conditioning. And it's my thought that what we can really do is continue to expand the walls and add amenities to that. But we're always, as long as we're in a meat suit living in separation, we're always going to be living relative to some type of limit. You want to keep expanding the parameters of said limits, because if we're living truly without limits, I do think the divine spark within us that we are living out as an individualized expression, that is limitless. But as long as we are localized in a meat suit, we're going to be bound to the realm and rules of a 3D environment, which means there's the law of polarity. There's the law of, not the law of appearances, but there's appearances of separation, of illusion, and that we're going to be consistently navigating, living in that appearance of duality that is actually just one thing. So, I said that to say, like, you truly, in essence, in what you are, that is a spark of the divine, of the unnameable, of the ineffable, of that which is the absolute, is the totality, the all that is, that can't even be conceptualized or thought about. We're living as individual expressions of that, which means everything is possible to you, but we're always going to, living in human meat suits, come across these barriers that we perceive of as illusions that aren't actually there. So you want to continue to broaden your parameter of said limits, which means you stop consenting to broaden your parameters of aforementioned limits. You stop consenting to, once you realize, okay, this is a wall that I'm hitting, you stop consenting to that particular wall being there. You will run into another. You will continue to do this until you die. And that then is, as R.J. Smina talks about, ascending the frequencies. but you stop consenting to those walls. You stop consenting to the fact that another person has power over me. You could be, I mean, imagine this. Think about, and if you have spent time incarcerated, you might have some experience with this. What would it be like to feel free in a jail cell? Paul writes about this in his epistles. What would it be like if you were confined in a room no bigger than your bedroom? And your job is to feel free within that. That's, I would say, is a good analogy of this matrix that we're living in. We have all of these, the appearance of all of these rules that we have to follow in terms of what it takes to, have a job and maintain relationships. And my gender has to act a certain way. And maybe people of a certain race have to act a certain way. And all these things that seem that they have to be the case. Yet you are, again, an individual's expression of the all that is. So if you don't choose to consent to all of those rules and binaries and appearances, you don't have to, but it is a matter of what you elect to participate in. So you withdraw your attention from that false appearance. That false appearance, there should be fruit in that tree, but there's not. So I'm not going to agonize and spend time pacing the tree and wondering who planted the tree and I'm cursing the tree. We're not doing anything more with the tree. We're removing our attention from the tree, and the tree will wither. The problem will go away. The problem will go away. But by the time it goes away, that's why I told you the story. By the time it goes away, it won't even be a fucking problem anymore, because it's like, I stopped consenting to this a long time ago. You got an argumentative sibling. Stop arguing with them. Let them win. Or an argumentative, whoever, friend, let them win. Because you stop consenting to the fact that there's a battle even happening. If you want peace in your life, you have to be the peace. Stop waiting for them. Okay, well, if they would just, change their mind about blah, 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 blah. Because then you're assigning the role of the effect, meaning the circumstance, as the cause, and you are the cause. So you stop being the cause of bullshit in your life. It is as simple as that. The application is what requires consistency. Remember to be good to yourselves and others. Check out, if I didn't say, everything below, my schedule for one-on-one guidance and support. If this was of value to you and you would like to go deeper, the Liberation Chronicle, which is the written word of this platform, is there as well. And the podcast, Dispatches from the Edge of Obvious. So lots of opportunities to get further into this work with me here, Lucian, and until next time.